It's 7:01 on the 20th of March, 2023. This is the time for this regular meeting for the Tioga City Commission. Start with the pledge, please. Right. Start with the approval of the minutes for February 21st, 2023 commission meeting, March 9th, 2023 special commission meeting, March 15th, 2023 special commission meeting.
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Okay, with the motion and a second to approve, there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns regarding those. We'll move the vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so moves. All right, commissioner reports, Tim.
Regular things going on. I guess they've had some trouble with these backflow preventing valves. They've had leaks in them. Got a couple of them. It's been kind of an issue. And boiler's still down at the lift station. It's got a guy coming. They finally got the electric heater working. So shouldn't be too cold, so we can get by that. And they've had some unpleasant things they had to do last week. Then if I could bring up, Jeff would like to buy some signs, like warning signs. And you guys all got that packet there. Just so when they do have a problem, want to close the street, they can put some out that's pretty noticeable. I would like to make a motion to go ahead and purchase these. $2,184.
I'll second. I think these are pretty important to let the voting public make them aware of what's going on. With a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. For the motion and a second, if there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, so moves. Do you have anything else, Tim?
That is it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't have a couple minutes. Okay, sorry. Eric. Yes.
I have something like that.
Claire.
I have nothing at this time.
All right, makes it easy. All right, for modifications, I do have one modification here. There's a gaming application. So I would ask for a motion to put it under new business.
I'll make a motion.
Second. All right, with a motion and a second to get this on the agenda. If there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move to the
Yes.
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 Yes. All those? That'll be item number 12. All right. Go into old business. Liz?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be back. I'll try to keep it brief, and like Jeff, probably most of what I'll have to share will be by participation if needed during the course of the meeting. I will note that I don't know what the commission status is, but I have had occasion to review the golf course irrigation agreement that was, my commentary was given via email. Hopefully Abby's transmitted that to all of you and you can take it for what it's worth and decide how to proceed. Abby and Josh also sent me late last week, the dam feasibility. I think you were on that email, weren't you, Josh? You were, okay. And so I don't know if you're raising that during your portion of the meeting. Okay, then I'm gonna leave that to Josh so we don't duplicate, but that looked good. A couple of provisions in there were, I guess there's something that the city would have to comply with in the event, but it's something to be aware of. Again, Abby has my commentary for that, but it looked good to me for the purpose of approval this evening, as long as the city was aware of those issues. We obviously have other pending matters, as is typical with the city. I'll keep you all updated as those develop, but I'll just be prepared to participate. And I will say that I'm very excited under old business to see another bullet point, and I'll look forward to Chelsea's presentation this evening. So that'll be good to hear. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Josh? Good evening.
Thank you, and good evening. Few items on the agenda for tonight. The first being the Tioga Dam Emergency Action Plan and Dam Safety Improvements feasibility study, which Liz alluded to. The cost share agreement from the State Water Commission. I think I mentioned at the last meeting that it had been approved, I think the day of the meeting. So I didn't have that for consideration, but I do have it included in the packet tonight for approval. So this would be their 60% cost share with the for the dam safety improvement feasibility study. So essentially the 60% of that cost for the engineering study on that would be covered by the State Water Commission. So if there's any questions on that, I can do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I would recommend approval of that agreement.
All right, do we have a motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, with a motion and a second to approve, there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move the vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. So moves.
Next item I have is the 2023 sewer, water, and street reconstruction project. You guys held a special meeting here the week before last, towards the end of the week there, and approved advertising for bids. That project is out on the streets for bids right now. Bid opening will be held April 5th at 1:30. Scheduled time for that. Substantial completion date of October 1st, with final completion November 1st. So that's the only updates I have on that, unless there's any further questions. Okay. Discussion. I had a couple other items come up here that I wanted to bring up. First being the KSI water and sewer extension project. We're working through the design on that, getting pretty close here in the next week or week and a half. We should have plans finished up for that project. I did hand out the utility occupancy permit application as well as the approach permit application for the DOT. There will be an approach off of Highway 40 to access the lift station site, as well as sewer and water utilities running along the highway right of way there. So those applications will need to be submitted to the DOT board to permit those activities. So we look for approval on those two items. Motion.
Second. All right, with a motion and a second to approve, there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. So moves.
Okay, next item related to that, the lift station site, we're working to prepare a, plat, for create a parcel for the lift station itself. Actually, sent down a preliminary version of it as well as the county, to get some initial comments on if there's any, requirements, that you have that we need to address there, but, working through that, so that should be, coming here probably at the next meeting. But we'll need some assistance from Liz in putting together the purchase agreement, legal documentation for purchase of that property, so. Once that plat gets recorded, so. With that. The next item I have is the soccer field project. We've been working through some design on that for the soccer field project there. And with the location of the project being within the floodway, the regulatory floodway, in that area, there's in order to get the soccer field to drain and the parking lot to drain off, it's pretty low lying area. There's gonna be portions of it that we have to place some, probably, I think the highest depth was about 6 inches of fill, in order to get that high enough so that it's not a wet spot. So with that, being in the floodway there, the state's requiring some modeling to be performed of that floodway to essentially what it is to determine any impacts on the water elevation during a flood event. We don't anticipate any because actually we're actually taking out more material than we're placing. There's actually a pretty big mound in there that we're replacing. However, the kind of a regulatory issue, and kind of checking, in a sense, checking a box just to meet all the federal requirements related to floodplains. So with that, we're going to need to do some additional hydraulic analysis on that to essentially prove there's no rise in the surface water elevation there. We've estimated the cost to perform that modeling is in the range of $11,000 to $15,000. It's a pretty substantial effort to just prove something that's almost just look at it, but those are the requirements we have to play by. So with that, just wanted to kind of put that out there, see thoughts on proceeding forward with that or what other avenues to invest in there's.
That's gonna happen, in that area, so I do think that the study needs to be approved.
And like you said, Josh, we can't move forward with anything there until we do that anyway.
Yeah. I mean, in theory you could, however, there's implications with FEMA and flood insurance and all that. So it definitely, I'm not advising that at all, but
Right.
I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, I would not advise it. There's definitely implications with FEMA and flood insurance rates and all those types of things. So yeah, really it's have to do it
Or forget about it.
yeah.
Then I agree that it's something that we have to move forward with, even though we may not like it. So,
I'll make a motion
okay,
to approve.
there's a second.
Also,
All right, with a motion and a second, if there isn't any questions, comments, or concern, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, so
Excellent. That is all I have this evening. There's,
Does that include the overriding?
that, I know Abby has mentioned that project to me, but we haven't started looking at that. Pump thing is what they call it, but we haven't started looking at anything on that.
So, Josh, when do the bids have to be in to you guys?
Bids for this year's project,
Yeah.
April 10th.
That's when we open them. When do you have?
They submit them, really, they have up until 1:30 on April 5th to submit bids, so.
We do a review on who it is, right? I mean, if it's, you know, a dirty rotten company, maybe we can't even open that bid.
Yeah, certainly, when we receive the bids, we will evaluate who the bidders are, and of course, we can look at, make sure they have all the proper documentation. And at that time, if the city would choose, and you would want to do it ahead of actually opening the bids. If there was some contractor or something that the city had concerns with, we would hold that bid and not open it. So yeah, that's something we'll definitely keep in mind as we approach that.
You guys probably got a pretty good idea who's gonna be doing this, but we just, this is gonna be a touchy project. I think it's gotta make sure we have contract.
We will keep an eye on that as we get closer. That's appreciated. Thank you, Tim. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hello.
good evening.
My name is Chelsea Wise. I have been hired as the Economic Development Director for the city. I started in the middle of January. So this is my first meeting here before the commission. So I've got a few pages of notes, so I'm gonna try and go through them pretty quickly, but done a lot of stuff in the first about 60 days that I've been working. One of the biggest things that we've been working on right now has been writing the official policies and procedures. I've reached out to a lot of local cities and as well as counties to get their procedures and policies so that we can really take a look at, sifting through all their information and finding out what's going to work best for the city of Tioga moving forward so that we can really set those guidelines and expectations for this position. So there's a lot of work to do there, still kind of going through all of the procedures and policies, but it's something we're definitely making headway in. One of the other major projects I've been working on has been meeting with local businesses in Tioga. After meeting with the commissioners, that was one of the things that they've been hearing from local businesses is that they wanted the economic development director to kind of meet with them, see what their needs are, ensure that all of the businesses in town know what's available to them. And it's been really going over really well, meeting with all these businesses. Some of the things that we've come across is, some businesses have a lot of growing pains. They're outgrowing their current locations. They're starting to look at, possibly moving into newer locations, which opens up space downtown for businesses, smaller businesses to come in as well. We've also been gathering a lot of data that is really pointing me in the direction of new, economic businesses and new solutions that we want to bring into Tioga. Childcare has definitely been something that has been, something in Tioga, but it's also a statewide problem as well. So I've got meetings set up with the current daycares to kind of see how we can address the problems that we have already, before bringing in new childcare as well. So far, I've completed 12 businesses, with current businesses that are in Tioga, and met with 3 businesses that have not opened up yet, that will be opening here in the next 3 to 5 months. We've also made sure that each of the businesses know what's available to them as far as the Tioga Fund. It's the Tioga Fund loan as well as the storefront improvement grants. Just to ensure that they knew, you know, the tax benefits as well as the money that was available to them to, you know, spruce up their businesses. I also attended the chamber mixer on February 16th. I did 2 different interviews with 2 newspapers within the first 3 weeks of being hired. Also writing a monthly column with the Oracle newspaper. That's really kind of focusing on what's on the horizon for the city of Tioga. We've also built and launched a new economic development website, which is URL for that is cityofTioga.com. It's also mobile ready, and it has all of our funding options available to small businesses that are looking to either start in Tioga or are in operation in Tioga as well. Each one of you also see there's a pamphlet that I left in front of you. We created a pamphlet that showcases economic resources and incentives that are available to Tioga businesses. This is kind of, it talks about the storefront improvement grant, the Tioga Fund, and the Renaissance Zone tax incentives, and the links to the site so they can get more in-depth information there, as well as downloading their applications and information on where to download or where to submit those applications once they're done. So those are some of the meeting things I've been doing. There's also quite a few bigger impact projects I've been working on. The largest being the Libraries as Launchpad program, which I had really done a lot of research on before I got this position, and kind of led me towards this. So the Libraries as Launchpad program, where basically anyone who's looking to start a business can walk into the library and walk through modules, self-paced modules, where they can write a business plan, you know, decide whether or not, or create a proof of concept for their business as well. And all of this is free to use through the library. We did write a scholarship, which the city of Tioga was awarded to get our library enrolled in the certification. Sandy's already started that at the beginning of March. So we're looking to finish that up the end of May and hopefully roll out the program to the public at the beginning of June. We've also met with I met with the Williams County Relocation Guide. This is going to be a physical and a digital publication that Williams County is currently working on. The whole idea for this guide is to kind of showcase what Williams County has to offer to people who are looking to move to the area. So we met with Williams County, their contractors that are writing the copy for it, as well as the Tioga Medical Center, the local realtor, Nesset Consulting. And then I also helped Lindsay Harmon with gathering contact information for local businesses for the sit down that we had earlier this month. I've attended 2 of the Vision West meetings, the January meeting, as well as the March meeting that was held on Thursday last week. We got an update on coal country and what the legislative session is looking like for coal as well as oil and gas production. It's been, I know that we don't have coal here in the Tioga area, but I think it's important to really understand, you know, the statewide economic impact that's going on in legislation so that we can see what's coming down the pipe and what might be affecting us as far as that's involved or concerned. Vision West will be holding a picnic here in Tioga in between June and August. That date has been set, but I did not write it down in my notes right now. But we'll be promoting all of that shortly as soon as on our website as well as Facebook, and I'm sure we'll be in the newspapers as well. Another project that I've been working on is the Back Alley Art Project. So this is a project that I'm working on with the high school art department, and the main objective is for students to research, plan, design, construct, and maintain art murals downtown in Tioga. The idea is that students will acquire a new sense of ownership, which filters through multiple generations, and potentially and ideally improves the community pride in Tioga. So some of the things that students will be learning how to do is they'll be learning how to run a concept meeting, how to put the design together and present the design to local businesses. They'll also be learning how to do the budgeting for their supplies. They'll be learning how to write a grant to get the funding from the Tioga Fund, as well as learning, the painting and presentation of the art piece as well. So as I've been meeting with local businesses, I've been starting to get a list of businesses that are interested in having a mural painted either on their alley or on the side of their building. And that list, I'm happy to report, is growing. So it'll be hopefully a bright summer in Tioga as far as that's concerned. We're hoping that this project will start August of 2023, so this next school year is when it should be starting. We've also been working on writing some grants for some local area boards. I helped the Tioga Airport Authority in applying for 3 grants totaling $30,000 for new road signs that will indicate the new terminal and the old terminal. This has been something that has been a concern since they built the new terminal, because it's kind of, if you haven't been out there and you don't know where you're going, it's pretty easy to get lost. Whether you're out there visiting or if it's ambulances that are bringing patients out there to medevac from outside counties or outside hospitals. That is kind of all that I have, 3 whole pages of notes that I kind of went through pretty quickly, but I'm really excited to take on this challenge with this new role, and there's a lot of work ahead, but I think it's going to be really good for today.
Chelsea.
So get off.
So, how is it going with just doing this part-time and doing your other jobs? Is it able to manage it well, or?
Yeah, I mean, right now, going back and forth between the 2 jobs, because I'm meeting with so many businesses and working on their schedule, some days mornings has been economic development and afternoons has been admin assistant, where the next day is flip-flopped just based on the schedule for businesses in town, and making sure that I can meet with as many of them as possible. But overall, it's been going pretty well. Question.
I have a statement if nobody else has anything.
I just want to tell Chelsea, good job, and I appreciate being kept informed, and I'm sure the community appreciates being kept informed. You said that's all I've done so far. That was quite a list. A 3-page list is a long list, so thank you for sharing that with us. I like to know what's happening. Go ahead, Kevin.
So I've had an opportunity to meet with a couple of different people from different boards. I met with Wendy. I remember when I spoke to Mr. Harms about things prior to all of this taking place. And some of the concern was the amount of responsibility and the amount of work that you're going to be putting into this. Maybe a part-time position isn't appropriate. You said, you explain that again, because you were kind of hesitant when you were saying that you have enough time. In your honest opinion, I can tell you what I feel and what I've heard from other people, that this needs to be more of a full-time position than a part-time position. Where are you at with that?
I mean, if the city wants to keep it as a part-time position, I feel like my progress would be a little bit slower than it would be if it was a full-time position. It really depends, if we're going to move forward regardless. It just depends how quickly we want to move forward with stuff. Right now, I'm kind of limited to meeting with just 1 or 2 businesses a day, which, some of those meetings are just 20 minutes. Some of those meetings have been 2.5 hours, depending on whether or not they are needing more information on, the Renaissance Zone. So we're starting to work through an application for a Renaissance Zone business right now, which is really exciting. It was a little bit frustrating because they had met with previous personnel who did not give them the information that they should have received in order to apply for the Renaissance Zone before they purchased their building. And so we're kind of, working kind of double time to kind of make up for some of that stuff. There's been a few instances where, just the information wasn't given to businesses when it could have been. So.
All right, so something for the commission to think about is knowing the work that she's done in this short amount of time and how much more she could honestly do if it was a full-time position like everybody's recommending that it from the community that it should be, something to entertain to think about at a future date to revisit that and figure out how we're gonna approach that. Okay?
Any
Any
other
questions?
questions?
Thank you. All right, we'll move into the new business. We'll start with letters of interest for the airport board seat. We have one open position, correct? One open seat? Okay.
So probably the commission should read those letters of interest into the record, just, I don't know if the community has those, or at least indicate who has submitted them.
All right. Yes, would you do them, or would you like me to ask Liz? Oh, you can. Do you have those lists?
I do have them.
Would you mind reading those?
Sorry, I do not, that's okay. I love reading aloud. It's a skill set that I possess. The first letter I have before me is from David Pagel. He is at 117 Fifth Street Southwest, Tioga, North Dakota, 58852. The letter is dated February 6th of 2023. It's addressed to the City of Tioga Airport Board. It reads, to whom it may concern, I understand that the City of Tioga Airport Board is looking for a new member, and I would like to express my interest in becoming a member. I have lived in Tioga for 15 years now with my family and raising one child. I believe I would be a suitable candidate for this position as a lifelong ND resident, father of an individual who shares the passion of flight, current progress towards my private pilot's license, and a business entrepreneur. I feel my prior experience being a board member for Williston State College and their automation and lease operator programs will give me an advantage knowing how to work together as a board, not only to move forward, but making the airport better in the future. I enjoy being a part of this community and what it does for its residents. I hope that I can add more to this by becoming a part of the Tioga Airport Board. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, David R. Pagel. There are 3 letters in total. I'll read the next one. The next letter is from Paul Wyrock. It is dated February 17th of 2023, and it is addressed to the Tioga City Commission. It reads, I would like to be considered for the open position on the Tioga Airport Authority Board. I am a commercial pilot and fly consistently from the Tioga Airport, have hangars there and several aircraft based at the Tioga Airport. Flying for Nesset, pipeline patrol, as well as for pleasure, and have on occasion helped out where needed at the Tioga Airport and am familiar with it. I have been actively recruiting pilots to come to the Tioga Airport for quite some time. I have been around several airports for 30 plus years and have the airport experience I feel would make me an asset. I would like to help build on the momentum of the current board and making Tioga Airport a welcoming place to be. The potential of growing the airport board is great, and I would like to help attract more Tioga-based aircraft. I have experience on several boards, presently Equality Township for over 25 years and Ray School for 21 years. I currently serve as the chairman of the Equality Township Board and president of Ray School Board. I am also on the Master Plan Advisory Group for the Williston Airport. I have business experience as I worked at and then owned a business in Williston and was there for 31 years. In addition to flying, I have a small grains farm south of Ray. Paul Wyrock, signed. The final letter is dated February 13th, 2023. It is from Wayne R. Knudsen. It is addressed to the City of Tioga. Attention, Tioga City Commission from Wayne Knudsen, reference appointment. It reads, good day, commissioners. I am interested in the appointment to the Tioga Airport Board that has been advertised in the Tioga Tribune. I am a lifelong citizen of Tioga and a business owner at the Tioga Airport and an aviation operator. My concerns are clarity and transparency with a publicly owned municipal airport. Timely meetings with proper information available to the public upon request is also something I believe has been taking too much time, and I will work with others to ensure this is addressed. Safety and operations on the airport is a large consideration for us all to work at. I have many decades of business experience with this airport and firmly believe that I can provide valuable insight to help run this municipal airport. All due respect and thanks, Wayne R. Knudsen. And that is those are the 3 letters of interest submitted for the single open seat.
All right, is there any discussion from the board?
Sure, I'm glad to see this much interest. It's a very healthy sign. Yeah, some really good candidates here.
I think it's extremely important that we appoint somebody to this position that has a good experience of dealing with the airport or airports, and that are willing to work with us. And it looks like, I mean, like you said, we have a good turnout. So I think we're starting to see some changes in the way things are going here in Tioga.
Good problem to have to pick the most qualified of a good bunch. That's nice to see.
Yes. It is. I'm hoping that, the next election, there'll be this many people that want to get on the city commission.
We can start working toward that. All right, I know that, Mr. Knudsen isn't here this evening, he's out of town. And then,
I think Mr. Pagel appeared at a prior meeting, if memory serves. He
Okay.
was here already once.
Okay.
And I don't know what Mr. Rock looks like, so I couldn't tell you if he's here or not. He raised a hand, he's here.
I'm trying to figure out the appropriate way to handle this, because the other two aren't here and able to speak, and we're just going based off of letters. Does anybody have any objections to just going based off of the letters at this point, due to the fact that the other two aren't present to be able to answer any questions or rebut anything?
No, I don't have any objection. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Paul. I think with his qualifications and it looks really good, and I think the airport board would be glad to have him. And we would too, and hopefully, I don't want to leave David out. I've heard so many good things about him also. And you know, perhaps there'll be another position open later. I just. So I'd make a motion to nominate Paul.
Okay, with that being said, I've had quite a few conversations with Mr. Knudsen about the airport, and the previous board that was out there. And we've seen some significant changes out there, and I know he's got a long history of experience as well. So I just wanted to make that. We can't forget about Wayne, because he would be a good option as well. So there's one motion. Anybody else have a motion? I would. So there's a motion for, to appoint.
Mr. Wyrock.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
Okay.
Okay. Is there any objections to this? Any other discussion? All right, with a motion and a second for Paul to be appointed to this position, there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 No.
With 3 yeses and a no, it'll pass. All right. Next thing on the agenda looks like police department. Chief Nelson.
Good evening, Chief Nelson, Tioga. The first item on my list here is for a PA system. This is going to be for like a passport style system. It's a portable speaker system that's capable of having microphones, wireless microphones, and Bluetooth devices such as cell phones connect to it. The reason why we're requesting this piece of equipment, which is about $1,200, is simply because we're starting to host a wide variety of community events to include National Night Out, Cocoa with a Popo, and then every other year we also put together a mock crash that demonstrates why it's important for teen drivers to not text and drive, drink and drive, so on and so forth. So in order for us to have a narrator properly narrate that mock crash as it's unfolding, and for students to be able to hear what's going on in the background, whether it's an officer running field sobriety testing or the commotion that's coming from within the vehicles, it's important to have a system like this. I did, in full transparency, run into a slight issue. When I went to order it from the original company I was going to order it from, they had sold out within a 7 to 10 day period of time from when I got the quote. So I wound up locating a company through Amazon that does have this system. I did purchase it, so I'm sorry, but I am still seeking, I guess, the blessing to continue with that and at least make you aware of it, being that there is a $1,000 limit. And it's also important for me to outline too that though the PD will have this system, we're more than happy to share that with the community center because we know that they have a wide variety of events there as well. And so this could be a multi-purpose, multi-use between multi-departments type of system.
Not to put you on the spot, but you talked about the mock crash. Do you have that coming up soon since we know prom's coming up next month?
Yeah, that's scheduled for the 19th of April.
That would maybe prompted you to do first and ask for forgiveness later.
It would be, yes.
Let's see what my-
Okay, fair enough.
All right, so do we have a motion for that?
We'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, with a motion and a second to approve the already purchase. Let's not make a habit of it, please.
I won't.
We'll move to vote if there's a discussion.
Yes.
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 The one next item on the agenda is regarding PD staffing. This is something I have not done without approval. So we're running into a slight issue where I'm finding that my police department more often than not is understaffed than fully staffed. And I'm noticing that that's taking a toll on my department, my officers, and their mental health as a whole. You know, throughout the history of the department, we'll go backtrack a little bit to when I took over as interim chief. I had 5 sworn officers, including myself, and 2 administrative staff. At that time, one of my administrative staff personnel parted ways with the city. My budget, I never increased or decreased as a end result of that. So I maintained the full-time permanent employee numbers from that, as well as the health insurance side of it that also comes out of my PD budget. So in essence, what I'm asking for today is approval to get additional funds, because I will need some additional funds, but I'm looking to hire a 5th patrol officer. And then I'm obviously a sworn peace officer as well, but I'm finding that a lot of my need is in my office. Making improvements within the department, ensuring officers are getting the training that's required of them on an annual basis and on a 3-year basis to maintain their post-board license, adjusting policy and procedure, taking complaints and vetting those complaints, now training a new admin person coming up here soon. It's really hard to do the job of patrol officer full-time and chief of police full-time. So to give you guys kind of an idea of where we're at statistic-wise within the department, I did a study the calls for service, I went back to 2014. So in 2014, our department, when I got hired, had 7 sworn, including former Chief Mays with the department. And at that time, our department had answered 1,658 calls for service. In 2022, last year, my officers responded and answered 2,311 calls for service. So at this point, and I should also mention, now that we're on a computer-aided dispatch system and a different report management system that we were before, reporting of calls for services and activities that my officers are doing out there are reported a little bit differently. Some modifications were made for 2023, and I project that those numbers are going to be much higher in 2023 than they were in 2022, just so we can accurately reflect what we're doing. As of right now, with the staffing model of the police department, we're looking at an estimated $399,797. That's going to be all before overtime. If I were to add an additional officer to the mix, I guess I would be looking at the $28 starting mark just to be on the safe side, because I don't know what I would get for applicants. So I would like to assume I would get somebody with experience. However, the reality is that's not common. So they would likely start at the $24.14 mark. But factoring that they would start at $28 an hour, the annual budget for the full-time line item would increase to like $462,265. In essence, what I guess I would look at is increasing that line item to roughly $475, because though I'm trying to eliminate overtime, I know that that's not going to be a complete possibility. So by doing that, I'm in essence looking for $51,000 additional dollars to be added to that full-time permanent employee line item. The the health insurance line is still supporting what we would have had with the second police administrator that's now no longer with us, so the funds are still there. At this point, it would just be working with Auditor Salinas to determine what the cost would be for the retirement PERS and that kind of a deal. I think from when we were interviewing our last applicant, she said that was a $32,000 package. So this $118,000 health insurance line, I divide that by 7, I came up with about $16,000. So it looks like I would need an additional $16,000 on the city side. I don't get to see that side of the budget, unfortunately. So the thing is, right now, as it sits, you have, in essence, 4 patrol officers at patrol to give your city 24-hour coverage. You have 2 day shift officers, 2 night shift officers, and then you have me that is the chief. And yeah, I do patrol, and I do act as a full as a patrol function as well. And I think that's incredibly important, because being a good chief, you have to understand what's going on in your community and what is changing out there. However, if that's my main focus and I can't get into the admin side of things, state's attorneys aren't getting their videos in the timely manner that they're requesting, and things start to slip between the cracks. I also did a time served versus hours worked study for the last 5 years, from 2018 to 2022. During that time frame, there are a number of officers that were with us for maybe only a year or so before leaving. But to give you a general idea, between some of the ones that were consistent with the department during that time, for me, the projected hours that I would have worked, which the schedule that are working right now, on an annual level, they will have worked 2,231 hours. So that's obviously above the 2,080 at 40 hours a week. They don't work 8-hour shifts, they work 12s, and they're on a rotating schedule. So from 2018 to 2022, my projected, and some of that was 2080 because I was appointed as chief in 2021. I should have worked 11,004 hours approximately before overtime. The actual hours that I put in during that time, I calculated and estimated to be at 13,840. That's going to be a difference of 2,836 hours, which basically means in that 5-year time frame, I worked enough overtime to where there's actually 6 years worth of time there. Chief Murphy, who had been with the department, I calculated his hours from 2016 to when he left the department in 2021. His projected was 6,800. He wound up at 8,419, which is a difference of 1,619 hours. Canine Officer Pesic, during his tenure, his projected was 8,924. He wound up with 13,144, which is a difference of 4,220. But it's important for me to note on that one that part of his canine compensation was getting 0.5-hour overtime for every 10 hours worked. So some of that is going to be factored into that, and I didn't deduct that. Sergeant Romero, during his time served at this point, he should have been at 8,180 hours. And he's currently sitting at 10,240, which is a 2,060-hour difference. So I bring this up because there's a number of reasons why our department can become short-staffed. It can be anything from the loss of an officer, and in 2018 and 2021, specifically, we lost 2 officers. When that happens, it's important for me to detail that it takes me about anywhere from 8 to 12 months to advertise, hire, train, put through the academy before that officer is road ready. My last officer I hired is Officer Shaffett, who happens to be with us in the audience back here today. He came to us from Kansas with, I believe, was it 6 years, 7 years? 7.5 years experience as a law enforcement officer down in Kansas, and it took me 8 years from the time that I advertised from that last position to the time that he hit the road.
Oh, it took you 8 years.
8 months, I'm sorry,
Okay,
excuse me.
thank you. I'm like, dang.
Yeah, I got a little ahead of myself. 8 months,
Thank you.
sorry.
It felt like 8 years though.
Yeah, it literally did feel like 8 years, because the breakdown of that, what happened was, there's other officers that during that time wound up going on personal leave. There's training involved with that. And so what the reality of this is, what wound up happening was I would help cover some of these shifts. And what that would look like is I would go on shift at Friday morning at 8 a.m. and I wouldn't get off shift until Sunday evening at 6 p.m. During that time, there's obviously times where I'm not patrolling because I have to get my rest as well. However, that rest was quite frequently interrupted, which causes concern for officer safety, potential liability for city because officers making poor decisions, what have you. So, but the current staffing model that we have with the 4 patrol officers, I mean, one officer goes on vacation, the rotating opposite officer has to cover about 12 days of that officer's rotation. So they got to work 12 days straight to ensure that the city's maintaining 24-hour coverage 365 days a year. So the benefit of having a 5th patrol officer or 6th sworn officer in the department is going to be this. If an officer leaves the department, that officer that would likely be on a swing shift at that point would then jump to that rotation wherever that officer left at. So if that was a day shift officer that left, then that swing officer would then cover a day shift. There would be no disruption in the schedule. There would be no extra hours worked. We wouldn't have to worry about fatigue. We wouldn't have to worry about burnout. And that same thing could happen if you know, there's a personal leave, a medical leave, a training leave, a vacation. Or say, we even have an event in Tioga here where now we have to go execute a high-risk warrant on a residence, which we do here. Not on a regular basis, but it is on an occasional basis. Say we do have overtime. Well, now this swing shift officer is going to put us in a position where these other officers that they come in contact with will be able to flex out to help mitigate some of that overtime. So in essence, why I'm asking for this is to be financially responsible to the community, but also be responsible to my officers, because right now they're tired. They've expressed it. I'm tired, and we want to see us maintain 24-hour coverage for the community of Tioga. We think that that's incredibly important. However, it is coming at a cost. And I will point this out. If you look at this budget breakdown between what was budgeted for 2022 at $440,000 a year versus what was budgeted at, or what was spent at 386,522 hours, it came in significantly lower, and I was short-staffed half that year. We had lost an officer, and the reason that was because my officers didn't feel that it would be appropriate to collect overtime for the amount of hours they spent at home during the rest period, and so therefore they only collect 2 hours of on-call pay. So, we want to be financially responsible and do the right thing for the community, but I need to also do the right thing for my department and my officers.
Well, it sounds like you've used a lot of numbers and a lot of fiscal concerns, but I think there's a more core concern there too, Josh, and maybe I'm wrong, but if you were to lose, if you didn't have the additional position and you didn't have it filled, and you're already struggling to meet the coverage requirements, I mean, isn't there a very principled concern among dollars and cents? I mean, that is certainly an important concern, but aren't we concerned of a lack of coverage? I mean, law enforcement is essential.
Well, that's what's gonna happen.
Right.
It's either going to, So what's gonna happen is, if we don't move towards that fifth officer, we are not gonna continue doing a 24/7 coverage because our officers do need rest. Which means, and they're not capable, but we would have to rely on Williams County to come down, say there's an emergency or a call, which happens frequently in the middle of the night. So we would have to wait for Williams County to come down, and that most likely would be from the Williston area. They don't necessarily hang out in the Tioga area. So now you could be waiting 20, 30, 40 minutes for somebody to respond to your house. So that's one of the problems we're looking at, and I do know that, and I had spoken with Abby can, pipe in if she needs to, but I believe per capita with the city of Tioga and the residents that we have in Tioga, we are supposed to have 5 officers.
At all times. That's actually roughly correct. I think I just looked up the population data and there's not a totally current census, but my recollection is at a minimum, it's supposed to be one cop to every 500 citizens, give or take. And we're not at that, even with your current staffing. So that's problematic even statistically, but like Jeff said, the problem is, I mean, that's a bare minimum, right? So when you get below the bare minimum, it's reasonable that you would expect that things like response time and consistent coverage would be impaired. Because, and it's a nationwide problem, just to be clear, Tioga's feeling the same thing that the rest of the country is feeling. There's serious problems with morale in this country with regard to law enforcement. They've taken a lot of shots in the press over the last few years. It's very hard to recruit people to rural areas in general. And then you have the overall, I guess, mud throwing that's occurred, and that makes it very difficult. But one of the things North Dakota has been able to pride itself on, and Tioga has been able to pride itself on, is being a safe community. But when you remove those buffers to safety, when you remove law enforcement, and that's what creates and drives the confidence and safety, that's a real problem for communities. I mean, that is a real problem, and we're seeing that nationally. I would hate to see that happen in a small place in North Dakota. I would.
So I was wondering, hold on, Abby, hold on. Go ahead.
So previously, we did have, in staff, 5 police officers and 1 chief of police and 1 admin. The previous chief of police did not want that. He wanted it differently, so he decided to cut it down to only 4 police officers. But I do feel like that this officer is needed.
So how are we compared to other cities? And, since we have an expert here, you know, of what Stanley. How many officers do they have? We're pretty close.
Stanley currently has 4 and a chief, and there's 1 spot to be filled. So it would be similar to this one, depending on what your guys' recommendation would be.
If you added the position, it would be similar to
Yep.
Stanley.
It would be similar.
And if it was fully staffed, because they have an open one. I mean, that's part of the problem here, is if Josh loses 1 person, they go from being understaffed to double understaffed, because you can't have 1 guy make up 3 spots. That's just not sustainable. That's not feasible, and it's going to lend to a gap in coverage. That was my concern when Josh expressed that, is it's certainly important for the government to preserve its dollars and to use them wisely. And what he's telling you, basically, the shorthand of that math is, you're gonna end up paying one way or another, because somebody has to cover it. So you can either pay it with a fully manned department, or you can pay it with extraordinary overtime and loss of morale and 100 other things that come up when you have overworked emergency personnel. But the bigger concern for me is what Jess is describing, what Josh is describing is, what if there's an emergency? And instead of having the police at your house in 5 minutes, it takes 45 minutes. That's not a good situation if it's preventable.
And if you want to talk about me being an expert, I'll refer to the Williams County Sheriff's Office as well. That's my current employer as well. Those are very accurate numbers, that in the event of an emergency and they need a second unit, and or they're not available because of they're tied up with something, the sheriff's office comes from Williston. So responding, lighting sirens, emergent traffic to get here could take anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. And in a life or death situation, those seconds count.
I would like to make a comment here.
Yes, sir.
With my years of experience, there was quite a bit of time that I was alone and didn't have an officer. And after putting in several 10 to 12-hour shifts, I would get called out after just getting home. And I felt kind of bad, because no matter what the call was, I was tired. And I was overlooking things that normally I wouldn't have overlooked. So I can understand these guys getting tired and not comprehending something that they should or should not have seen or understood. Because after a while, you get to, I don't care. And that's not good.
I think we owe it to the community to provide them with the best service possible.
Well, and I think it's also fair, if I could quick detail what we've done for the community in the time that I took over as chief. Because it is a big ask, and I understand that. So what we've done within our department is we've restructured, or I've restructured a little bit, to where your community now has a detective within this department, where when crime is committed, such as a burglary, which we have had one, I think it was last fall, she was able to, our officer responded, took an initial report, we forwarded that to now our investigations person, or detective. She investigated it, was able to find out who done it, what all was involved, and was able to, in essence, solve that case and forward her report for charges to the state's attorney's office. My overall goal for the detective spot here is, there are many cases here to include sex crimes, crimes against children. She's also ICAP, by the way, which I think we've always discussed. I mean, she investigates internet crimes against children. So when you start talking about internet predators preying on the youth in our town, which sometimes they're sending these photos out that they shouldn't be sending to begin with. Regardless, our detective is able to investigate those to find these individuals that are trying to corrupt these youth in our town. But my overall goal is to not outsource our investigations as much as we would have in the past and have a better success rate for being able to resolve cases and that sort of deal. So that's one thing that I've done to improve the department for the community. Another component of that that's incredibly important is this last June when Officer Pesic departed from the department, we lost our canine. And I know from speaking to individuals I've gone and executed search warrants on their residence that the canine program was one of the top reasons as to why these narcotics on dealer amounts stayed out of town. I mean, we still have people that use narcotics here. I won't say that our community is narcotic free. It's not. However, a lot of that riffraff stayed out simply because of the canine program. Well, now I need to ensure that I have an officer out there that's well trained in narcotics interdiction. So one of my officers has expressed interest in that. And now we're working on training him and putting him through trainings to detect criminal activity and interdiction stuff while on the highway. So I'm trying to take all of the issues and shortcomings of our department from the past and modify those to where now we can provide these services to our community to where we have a better success rate, solvability with these cases.
All right. Is there any other questions for Chief Nelson?
What is your bottom line on this, money wise?
You wanted 51,000 for the line item increase.
For full-time permanent employee, and then I'm probably also gonna need,
It was about 16,000 you calculated potentially for benefits,
yeah,
but that was that reality. I mean, I don't know that it's an addition, right? Because you would otherwise make it up. That's not a straight line number, because if you have to pay additional overtime, it's gonna eat into that number. Is that right or not right?
well, so the current line item is at 440,000. To add just the salary or the hourly rate of that officer without overtime, we would be looking at $462,265. I was looking to round that up to $475,000 just to accommodate overtime. Again, I'm doing the best I can to alleviate a lot of it. However, there's still going to be some of it. So I want to make sure I have a little bit of a buffer there.
Tell us again, Josh, what's your starting line item number? If that's where these numbers get cloudy. You were at 442,
440,
440, and what do you want the total line items to be?
475.
Okay, so you're not asking for an increase. Okay, I see.
So that's going to be
I
like a
gotcha.
$35,000 increase
That's what I'm
there.
at. What's the total line item?
Okay.
It's 35,000. That's what I think the commissioner is asking.
Yeah.
I think Abby could get down to the finer details of it too. She would have exact numbers, but she's at the big cities. So we could kind of pinpoint that number down a little bit better too.
But I mean, I think that's
But-
evident. If the line item increase in the amount of
Yes.
35,000, that's given what's on the line,
Right.
that's a
No, absolutely. I'm just saying.
pretty small number.
Yeah, and like I say, the health insurance side of it, line item, we already have the funds there, or we should already have the funds there to support the health insurance. It would just be whatever the retirement to whatever other benefits come out of the line item under the city's budget that I don't see on a regular basis.
Any other questions or discussion?
I think Abby wants to talk.
You're
We can't
muted,
hear
Abby.
You're still muted.
Yes.
Hello?
There you
Okay,
go.
now we
You
can
guys
hear you.
hear?
Now we can hear you.
I think you guys are asking for a money amount, and that gets adjusted at the end of the year. what you guys are doing right now is approving the position for him to hire. And the money gets adjusted and you guys approve that at the end of the year.
Okay, so all we need to do is, if there's a motion on the floor to approve, to
Yeah.
the position, okay.
And in June, we're gonna be working towards next year's budget anyway. So Josh can take a look at his numbers and see what he needs there.
So because that's perspective, Abby, that's not actually gonna mess with the budget for now, because we're projecting that extra 35,000 in total, or 51 per line item. I mean, that's, Josh is great if you find somebody, I guess, before then, but
Yeah.
history speaks for the future. Probably we're not gonna suffer that increase anyway before the budget is prepared, right?
Right.
Okay. So with that being said, is there a motion on the floor
I'll make the motion.
to approve it?
Yeah.
All right, with the motion, is there a second?
I want a second.
All right, with a motion and a second to approve, the hiring of an additional officer. If there isn't any other questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
All right, so moves.
And, does that also give me the approval to advertise as well at this point?
that would be a separate motion.
Yep, so if we can get a second motion to approve, for him to advertise and hire for that position.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, with a motion and a second, if there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
All right, so there you go. Now,
Thank you.
that. Okay. That was your last one?
Yes.
All right.
Go sit down.
Next one is the ERPA funds.
Yes, that's the ARPA fund that was just for COVID. So what I'm thinking here is permission, we received approximately $212,000 in the grant for COVID. And I'm seeking permission to apply this. This bill from, it's a previous bill from October 13, 2022, in the amount of $232,436.60. From Strata Corporation. This is a result of the auditors, they wanted it very specifically up. They wanted those funds to go specifically to a certain bill.
All right, so that's a grant that we need to apply for, is that my understanding? Sorry.
Funds from
They received the money already.
Yeah.
it needs to be allocated.
Okay,
Just apply to a certain bill.
all right,
from the actual audit.
We've already been allocated the money.
We've already-
The auditors have recommended the direction of that money for the payment of a specific.
all right, is there a motion? I'll make a motion. Okay,
Second.
all right, with motion to approve the request. And a second, if there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move the vote.
Yes.
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 All right, so moves. All right, next is Pine Ridge.
So, Pine Ridge, I believe his name is Dan, he's an owner, one of the few owners that own Pine Ridge. He wants to move forward with the project, to pay the street, sewer, and gutters, in the area. And, we have three options. One is for the city to assess it, take out a loan, and, charge Pine Ridge owners on the property tax. The next one is for the city to pay for it upfront from our funds. And then the city assessed it and Pine Ridge still pay for it, but he paid it upfront. And the third option is to just say no to them. They're looking for an answer. They wanna finish this project up. I see Dan has spoken to you guys several times on this issue.
And that, there's kind of a long history there. I'm not gonna repeat it because I know I won't be able to recite it accurately. But this has been kind of a saga. The initial issues were that they rose before my time here, but they were maturing as I came on board. There was an issue of a deficiency in a bond that was to cover some of these problems. It ended up that bond wasn't properly in place or wasn't leverageable against the deficits in that property. It was quite frustrating, and the commission has revisited this issue several times with several different pieces of communication. I know the property's changed hands, and I don't want to misspeak or say anything derogatory about the new owners. I don't know those people. Those aren't the people that were originally responsible for the project, and I think they deserve their clean slate. But there is a great deal of expense here and a great deal of background, and I think it's just important that the commission is aware of that, because I know the members of the commission have changed dramatically since this thing is developed. And do we know the expense? What are they proposing, Abby? What is the total expense?
They're proposing that we take out a loan and we assess them. So we would hold the loan, but they would pay it off. And I would say maybe a 10-year loan, not a loan that's 15 or 30 years. And they would pay it on their property tax every year until it's paid off.
But how much money is what I'm asking? What are they asking that we borrow on their behalf?
They're asking for $658,060. And they're putting in $150,000 of it, of extra money to keep sidewalks and, by all the garages. And some of the common areas where, people walk through.
So this would be assessed. So basically the city would just be carrying.
You would be carrying the debt unless you could collect it on a special assessment, and it sounds like the nets, and I don't know that I'm fully aware of what Abby's describing, but if they want to borrow $658,000 under the city's loan and put up their own 150, that means you're carrying $500,000 plus interest, hoping that you would ultimately maybe assess it or collect it in the form of a special, I think is what was being said there, but Dan, you know more about this.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify, yeah, I believe the correct number is a 650 or whatever you stated there. That was based on more engineering's a year ago, I believe, about
Was probably about
estimate of cost. And so the input or the owner, which is Pine Ridge, I'm not sure what they're called corporately speaking, but they would put in approximately $150,000 out of that. So there would be, if I'm thinking right, 500,000-ish on the city part that we would put in, I believe. I don't know if Dan Johnson is on the phone on there, or if that's his iPhone, or
Yes, I'm here.
did you want to clarify that?
You got the figures right. We're putting in for the parking, the driveways, and the sidewalks. And we're looking for the city contribution to be for the curbs, gutters, and roads. And we're working off of the figures from more engineering from a year ago.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. All right, so is there any further discussion about this?
I guess since we have him on the phone, is that the tippy top number that Pine Ridge can put up to get this done? I mean, that's you know, $500,000 isn't small potatoes, and there's no nice way to say that or not. And I realize that you guys are successors in interest, but I also realize that the city had expectations at the outset that there would be bond coverage. That's not your fault at all, but it's not a good situation. So is $150,000 the top dollar that Pine Ridge can use to invest in that infrastructure, or is there wiggle room there?
There isn't any wiggle room at all. In fact, we've got over $3 million invested already in the property. When we took the property over from the developer, we were the original funders. And when he got Parkinson's disease and couldn't finish the project, we had to take it over. And then we finished it up to this point, and then we've since now replotted it with 0 lot lines, redid the roads to comply with city requirements. And we put another probably 50 grand into that already. So it's a free and clear property. And we're just looking for the city to ante up from when previous attorney didn't finish the contract, which left us with holding the bag for the bond that wasn't able to be executed.
All right. All right, and to make this area the way it's supposed to be and give the residents over there the appropriate streets, I think it's important. Is there any other questions, comments, or discussion? Anybody has?
Well, I guess the only question that I have, because the estimate's a year old and the market has changed based on inflation and inflationary costs, is, you know, whatever decision the commission makes, if the commission determines that it's gonna put into the pot, which is perfectly fair for the reasons you stated, Kevin, and as he
Right.
said, that's really, you know, they're not like with fault for what happened with regard to that bond.
Right.
But there needs to be some discussion or understanding of what happens to the deficit amount, because if the amount exceeds the estimated 658 plus their 150, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if inflation costs were up 15, 20, 30%. What happens with that number? I guess that's what I would want the commission to be able to discuss and understand, because we don't want to revisit a 30% increase mid-swing. Go ahead, Josh. You're the numbers guy.
I can speak to that to some degree. So with it being special assessed, the city would have to bid that component of the project out. So I can look back at that estimate. I haven't looked at it probably in about a year, or maybe slightly longer, but we can look at that and kind of see where it falls with current bid prices, and of course, ultimately the decision to award the contract for construction of it wouldn't occur until after the solid numbers are in from an actual bid. So I can look at it and kind of see how it ranges or compares to current bid prices. But of course, until the project's actually bid, you don't have solid numbers. So
Well, if there's a lot more that goes into this, we would have to create an assessment committee. And Josh would have to present the numbers so that they can present the way it should be assessed for that particular project. It does take about 2 to 3 months.
yeah, and with it being a sole one property owner, it kind of gets simplified some versus doing it across the whole city or, you know, 50 property owners, whatever it may be. But yeah, there is a bit of time with the special assessment district.
So then is the motion that's being sought tonight, or the action by Pine Ridge? I guess let's clarify that, just so the commission knows what they're, I mean, what are we asking for? The commission can't make a specific dollars and cents commitment because we don't know what that number is. So what's the request? Just the path?
So the request is for the city to take under consideration to assess this property so that we can move forward with construction. Or not. So that would be up to them.
Okay.
All right, so for this evening, we wouldn't necessarily need a monetary, unless I'm completely wrong here, a monetary value. Because we need the bids, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess tonight we're looking for either a motion to approve or a motion to deny. Moving forward with this process to.
And I would have to know if you guys do move forward, Kevin, if you guys want to pay for it from our funds or take out a loan for it.
Okay. And help me understand out of curiosity on either of those, if we take out the loan, we take it out, we assess them, right? Or
Yes,
we assess, or we pay for it out of our money, we assess them.
right. We hold the loan for them, but they're paying it from property taxes every year, so it's paid off.
All right. So does everybody on the board understand the two different options that we have here? And if so, if somebody wants to make an appropriate motion,
Yeah, we've kicked the can down the road on this a few times. It'd be nice to get that property cleaned up. I think we have an obligation to do it. This is best case scenario, I think. You know, if we wanna we could do the 4-letter word. Go ahead. This is-
okay, so if I understand it correctly, reading through between the lines, is you would like a motion to approve the project with taking out a loan and for whatever monetary value, and then assessing them for them to pay back.
Yes, I won't say it, but we did it now.
I'll second.
Okay, with a
Just
motion
so we
and a
know for
second.
the record, you're asking for a special assessment, and you've asked that special assessment be undertaken in the form of an all
Loan.
a loan.
A loan,
Okay, thank you for
yes.
that clarification.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for that. Do we need to repeat what the motion or the second is again? All right, with that being said, if there's any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move the vote.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
All right, so moved. All right. Next, we have a resolution 2023-03, goes to the city of Tioga property and evidence account.
There's resolution out from the auditors, they have this line item, there's two motions that are seeking, one is for this resolution. And, I can read it if you guys want.
Do you have,
I have it right here. It doesn't matter what I was.
Okay,
this has it, I'll let her read it.
This is motion 2023-03, date March 20th, 2023. Be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Tioga, Williams County, North Dakota, a resolution to close the City of Tioga property and evidence account, whereas the City of Tioga, Williams County, North Dakota is a municipal corporation organized and existing under the laws of the state of North Dakota. Whereas in order to facilitate the orderly, I apologize, that should be a correction, the orderly processing of City of Tioga business, the city auditor has requested that the City of Tioga property and evidence account number 201830 be closed effective March 20th, 2023, and the balance of $5,300 be moved to the City of Tioga's general account. Now therefore, the City Commission approves the City of Tioga property and evidence account number 201830 be closed effective March 20th, 2023, and the balance of $5,300 be moved to the City of Tioga's general account, moved by blank, second and five to adopt.
Is there a motion? I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move the vote.
yes,
Yes,
Yes.
Yes,
so moves.
the second part of their request is, we also have, drug money, that, we need to put in, we're gonna take it out of that drug money, that's just in our, petty cash fund right now, and we need to move it into the general fund. This was money that previously was housed, in case, there was some undercover work. But, that hasn't been done in years, and the, auditors have asked that it be put back into the general fund.
Make a motion. All right, with a motion and a second, if there's any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move the vote.
yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
all right, so moves. Is that it, Abby?
Yes, thank you guys so much.
All right, number 10, letter of interest for the visitor promotion board.
So, the visitor promotion board add a vacancy in their, board for, it's been a while, and we've been advertising. And Veronica is the perfect person, because she already attends these meetings. She has no vested interest, she doesn't make a decision on the commission board, one way or the other. So she was just making recommendations.
And she has in your packets, there's a letter dated March 10th of 2023, submitted by Veronica Peterson, setting out her interest.
I'd make a motion to appoint Veronica.
I'll second.
All right, with a motion and a second to appoint. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so moves. Yeah, so this. Well. Okay. Visitor promotion application.
So there's an application, from the city for the beautification of downtown. We purchased the flowers, downtown and down Second Street and Main. And so, we put in an application for $4,683.64. The visitor promotion board recommends approval of this application.
All right, is there a motion? I'll second. All right, with a motion and a second to approve, if there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
so moves. All right, the next one is going to be the addition that we did. So this is a gaming site authorization for Tioga Country Club. Do you have more details on this, Abby?
Yes, so the American Legion is putting in to, do a gaming application there for the summer months while they're open. And so, we had to get it in to you guys right now because they're asking for the date of April 1st to, I want to say June or July.
Looks like June 30. Yeah, June 30.
So the end of June.
Okay, so is there regarding this request
I'll make a motion.
to approve?
Yes.
All right, is there a second? A second. All right, with a motion and a second to approve, there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 So moves. All right, now consent approval. And in tonight's consent approval is planning and zoning application, local charity permit applications, payroll for March 7th, 2023, bills for February 2023, financials for February 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, with a motion and a second, if there isn't any questions, comments, or concerns regarding consent approval, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 So moves. And with that, completing the agenda, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
There's a second. Okay, with a motion and a second, if there's any questions, comments, or concerns, we'll move to vote.
Yes.
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 All right, so moves. It is 8:35. Thank you guys for coming.